What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Also hit that like button. And in this video, what we're going to be covering are the bearings on the deck belt tensioner arm for the John Deere Ztrack 900 series commercial mowers. This is a common issue that I've seen over the years. Those bearings will wear out, and what happens is the pulley will start getting into the deck. I made a video about a year or two ago that this was one thing that you need to watch out for if you have one of these mowers. They wear out and allows that pulley to start scraping into the deck, and it's just something that a lot of people overlook, and they can be kind of hard to remove. There's one common issue when you go to remove those, and another YouTuber, I'm going to put a link down in the description, he had made a video about how to do this, and he actually reached out to me, asked if he could put a link to my channel on there, and I watched his video, and it was a common issue that he ran into. He went through 50 different ways to try to remove these bearings, and I'm going to show you the quick, easy way to do it. So let's get started now. So real quick, here's a look at one, and this deck belt is also worn out, allowing that arm to hit that stud. But you can see how this pulley has been scraping into the deck, and it's all because of those bearings back there. So I'm going to remove this spring. Real easy way to remove that spring is just take this piece of rope and wrap it around like either a screwdriver or a small ratchet and hook it onto that hook there to release that tensioner spring. Now that long end of that spring is what goes onto that arm, so just keep that note when you put it back together. And now you can see the damage here that pulley has been digging in. That should not be moving up and down like that. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and remove the belt. Now one thing that'll make it easier is if you get this thing jacked up. I have some jack stands on the back, and I have those front wheels on some wheels, and this way I want to be able to lower the deck so I can fit that impact in there. So I'm going to go ahead and lower this deck all the way down, and now I can fit my impact in here. This takes a 13 millimeter. Remove that little guide off of that tensioner arm there, and now I can remove the belt, get it out of my way. And with the deck low, it's going to be nice and easy to remove that bolt holding that tensioner arm. And oftentimes I'll have to take a screwdriver or something to just kind of scrape all the buildup of grass and debris around from that bolt. So the bolt is inserted from the bottom, and it takes an 18 millimeter socket. And just a quick fun fact, notice that my customer has mounted their blades upside down. Anyway, so I'm going to take a 18 millimeter wrench, hold it on the top while I use the impact from the bottom, because I can't really fit the big impact on the top right here. So go ahead and remove that. And one thing I want you guys to notice is this isn't a normal washer. It has a raised edge on one side right here. That goes on the top, and that flat edge goes on the bottom. So I'm just going to leave that right there and leave the nut right there for when we go to reassemble it. Now once you have the tensioner arm off, it's a good idea to check the bearings of that pulley. On this one it was fine, but these are the bearings that we're needing to replace right there. But I still need to remove this pulley so I can put it in a vise a lot easier. This also takes an 18 millimeter. So I'm just going to leave that bolt through that pulley, and now we're going to work on replacing the bearings in that arm. And guys, I've done this 100 times. My weapon of choice is my snap-on air hammer and this long draft punch, but you can get away with using a regular punch And this one may come in handy later. This is one that I've modified with a curve on it, and you can see how I've ground out that little notch, and you'll see that come into play later on. But just real quick, I'm going to show you the benefits of having an air compressor and the right tool for the job. You're going to see why this snap-on air hammer is so easy. I just shoot that bearing out. Now there is a bushing that goes in there, so just make sure you don't forget to take that out. I'm going to swap around, knock out the other bearing. The right tools, it's a piece of cake. Now I get it, you probably don't have that air hammer, or sometimes what may happen is the outside edge of that bearing will stay into the arm, and that's what happened to the other guy's channel, and that's really common. See how the outer edge of that bearing is still in that arm. So this is where that curved punch is going to come into play. The curved punch with the little notch that I ground out. And the way you can do that, there's just enough room to get in there and reach in there and just knock that. I'm rolling the punch here so you can see that why I have that notch in it. So it'll get that little bit of lip, and then you can just use a little small hammer there, small sledgehammer. I apologize for the angle of the camera right here, but I'm going to hit it at 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock. And normally there's no grease in these, so this I'm thinking someone has replaced this bearing before and they put some grease inside of the cavity of that arm, because normally it'll be dry. But you can see how that punch, you can punch it out that way. Now to reinsert or install the new bearings, in other words, I like to just grab a socket that's going to make contact with the outside edge of that bearing. You don't want to hit the inside of that bearing. You just want to make sure you're hitting the outside edge of that bearing, and you want to do it as evenly as possible. So just knock it on in, just tapping it on in with the hammer, and don't forget to put your little spacer in there before installing the other bearing. And just make sure you're centered up to where you're making contact with the outside edge of those new bearings. And then make sure that bushing, before you try to reinstall it, make sure that bushing is lined up. If you need to, take your punch, slide it through there, and that'll make reinstalling it a lot easier. So then just go ahead and put it all back together. So now that it's all back together, I'm going to show you how it doesn't move up or down. I'm not making contact with that deck anymore, even though it's still super close. That's just how they come. And once I put a new deck belt on, that tensioner arm will not hit that stud. So anyway, I hope this video helps you guys out if you have to replace those bearings in that deck belt tensioner arm. And that one punch that I had, it's just a cheap punch from Harbor Freight. I ended up bending it and just kind of modifying it. I do that quite often, modify, make tools for various jobs that I do frequently. So it's just one of those things that, you know, you just kind of have to improvise in situations. I'll put a link down in the description to that other video that I made about all the things you need to know about the John Deere commercial 900 series Ztrack mowers. Very helpful if you have one of these mowers. So do me a favor, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll have more videos like this coming soon, guys. Thanks for watching.